Alright, so today we talk about one of my most favorite gaming franchises, and that is Metal Gear Solid. Now, if you've never experienced Metal Gear Solid, basically this franchise is a stealth action game that has a very riveting story that's very emotional, symbolic, and deep. And because of that, it's a very rich franchise. It's not any of those pick up and play video games. You have to get invested into the lore, you have to get invested into the characters, and the games require a lot of your attention. These are very cinematic experiences, and these are almost works of art more than just simple video games. Now, for most people, that when they played Metal Gear Solid, this is the game that they played on the original PlayStation 1. I really didn't own a PlayStation 1 growing up. I played it at my friend's house, but I never really had one. So this was not my first experience with Metal Gear. Instead, my first experience with Metal Gear Solid was this game right here, which I feel like is a very underrated game. So this is Metal Gear Solid: The Twin Snakes. Essentially what this was a remake of the original Metal Gear Solid for the Nintendo GameCube. And what they did is that they took the original Metal Gear Solid and then they took the sequel, Metal Gear Solid 2, and they essentially mixed them together. They updated the graphics, of course, and they took some of the elements from Metal Gear Solid 2, some of the changes when it came to camera angle, and a lot of the upgrades in movement and stealth that was introduced in Metal Gear Solid 2. They introduced that into the story of Metal Gear Solid 1. What was unique about this game is that this completely redid everything that was in Metal Gear Solid 1. And what it did is that it just upgraded the graphics as well as the scenes and the cinematography, the cutscenes. Everything was just upgraded and done extremely well. This is a pretty underrated game. A lot of people didn't like it when it first was released. I felt like people thought that it ruined the essence of the first game, but I really feel like it enhanced everything that was in the first game, and was my introduction to the Metal Gear Solid franchise. Now, at that point, I had a Nintendo GameCube, and this game is an exclusive to the Nintendo GameCube, and it has remained an exclusive to the Nintendo GameCube. But Metal Gear Solid is what actually pushed me to jump into the PlayStation ecosystem. Because of Metal Gear Solid, and because I was so excited to continue the series and play some of its sequels, that was the main reason why I ended up selling my GameCube and picking up a PlayStation 2. So now, because I got into the Metal Gear Solid series pretty late because of this game, by the time I got a PlayStation 2, I was very easily able to pick up a copy of Metal Gear Solid 2: Sons of Liberty. So essentially this game was the sequel to Metal Gear Solid 1, and what this game did is that it had a very nicely done prologue, which was with the original character Solid Snake from Metal Gear Solid 1. And then in that prologue, when the prologue ended, you played the rest of the game, which is majority of the game, as another character, which was quite surprising. The character turned out to be really well. After you spent that many hours playing as that character, you begin to like the character and understand the motivations. But essentially now you are in this big shell facility. You're taking another terrorist organization down, and throughout the story you're learning a lot more. And I'm not trying to spoil anything just in case there's new people to the Metal Gear Solid franchise, but essentially that's the gist of Metal Gear Solid 2. A lot of the mechanics, so for me, a lot of the upgraded mechanics compared to the original Metal Gear Solid, I didn't really appreciate them because the original game that I had played, Twin Snakes for the GameCube, this already had integration with some of the mechanics that were found in Metal Gear Solid 2. So Metal Gear Solid 2, the story was unique. I wasn't a big fan of playing as a different character. I enjoyed playing the prologue over and over because I genuinely enjoyed the character of Solid Snake. But this was a solid game, and it actually was really fun. And at this point, I had played Metal Gear Solid 2, and now that I was in the PlayStation ecosystem, I was highly excited and anticipating the arrival of the sequel, Metal Gear Solid 3. And at this point, I was fully invested into this franchise. I really was very much anticipating Metal Gear Solid 3, and when that finally got released, I remember taking some of my exams in school, and as a gift from that, I finally was able to play this game right here, Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. Essentially, this was now a prequel. You played as one of the original characters that was the genesis, essentially, of Solid Snake. You played somebody known as the Big Boss. So this was the Big Boss here, and this game was extremely unique in that you were in a jungle in Russia, and you had to essentially survive. And that's what Metal Gear games were all about. You had to be unseen. You had to, find the weapons at the facility that you were at, and you just had to remain unseen. And this just took it to a whole nother level with the camouflage system. You healed yourself with medical equipment. You hunted animals to eat and have stamina. Again, there was another terrorist organization. Your essential mentor betrays you in the very beginning of the game, and essentially this game, the rest of it, is a revenge story where you're trying to go after your mentor and her unit. And overall, this story was extremely well done. I played this game multiple times to completion. This is by far my most favorite Metal Gear Solid game. They also released this version later on, Metal Gear Solid 3 Subsistence, and essentially what this did is that it took the original story of Metal Gear Solid 3 and just changed the camera angle. And that reminds me, I should mention that for most of these games, the camera angle was fixed. This was the first time that you had full movement around the camera, and it became almost like a third-person action game. And although I played the original Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater so many times, just the fact that you were able to move the camera around, it changed the entire experience of the game, and I think it enhanced it. And at that time, they also introduced the online component. I didn't spend much time playing online on the PlayStation 2. However, that was something new that was introduced to the franchise. But main thing that really changed up the entire game is that now you were able to play it with a full, freely movable camera. And surprisingly, it did not break the game. Although the game was designed to be played with a fixed camera, even when you had all the movement for it, the game is just so well done and so well crafted that even when you have full range of the camera, it doesn't destroy anything. This game is absolutely fantastic. I highly, highly recommend it. So at this point, I'm deeply invested in this franchise. This is becoming my most favorite franchise, and that's when I pre-ordered. My first ever game that I ever pre-ordered was this game right here, Metal Gear Solid 4. Now, this game is pretty unique in the fact that it has never left this PlayStation 3 console. Some of the other games have been re-released as remasters, such as this one over here, which includes Metal Gear Solid 2, 3, and another game called Peace Walker, which was a prequel to Metal Gear Solid 3. I did play that a little bit. A lot of people really love that game. However, I didn't get into it too much. I never had a PSP, so the first time I played it was on this HD collection. But back to Metal Gear Solid 4, this game has remained on the PlayStation 3 and has never actually been re-released, remastered, or anything else. And this was basically the culmination of the entire Metal Gear Solid saga. Now, the story gets a little bit convoluted with all these games. Like I said, very deep, rich story with a lot of symbolism, but this game was essentially the culmination of it. With this game, we saw the return of many of our favorite characters from previous games, and essentially if you have not played the other Metal Gear Solid games, you're really not going to enjoy this game as much. This game is very cinematic and very unique. A lot of weird and strange sequences, and that's saying a lot because the Metal Gear Solid franchise as a whole introduces a lot of things that are not typical of video games, a lot of supernatural elements, but this game has a different level of weird to it. And I don't mean weird in a bad way. This game is actually fantastic. It's my least favorite Metal Gear Solid game, but overall, compared to other video games, this is an excellent game. And now we cannot talk about Metal Gear Solid without talking about this game right here. So this was basically the last release of an official Metal Gear Solid game. There was a lot of drama going on with this company here, Konami, and the director and creator of the Metal Gear Solid franchise. And this is a game which I was highly anticipating, and honestly, I was pretty disappointed by. Now, the game is fantastic in terms of graphics and gameplay. That's what keeps you going. But in terms of the storytelling, which is a huge element in these games, I feel like the storytelling was poorly done in this game. The story didn't make a lot of sense. There were some theories out there that the story was incomplete. There was a lot of drama to get this game out on time, and because of that, maybe the story suffered a little bit because of that. But to me, the main issue with it is the fact that now the story is broken up into these almost episodes. So now you have smaller episodes which at the beginning of a mission will give you a preview of who's in the mission, because it tells you the name of the character, the actor that plays that character, and it tells you that up front. So there's many missions where you go on where you think you're going to do something simple, and they're going to introduce to you a major character. And right at the beginning, before the mission starts, they will mention the name of that character. So it kind of destroys the experience, and it's just odd. Metal Gear has never been a episodic game, and this becomes almost like a Netflix style episode of a mission, and because of that I really didn't really like it. Now the other thing that's unique about this game here, I don't have it here, but this game released its own version of a prequel well in advance before this game was released. That was Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes. Now that game I enjoy because it's a prequel, and because it's just a very small brief mission. You play one mission, which is a big sandbox area. There's multiple things to do. I enjoy Ground Zeroes quite a bit, and I actually enjoyed it probably a little bit more than this because the story just got so convoluted. The only thing that's a shame is that the gameplay is so good. This game has such excellent gameplay that it's highly disappointing that they couldn't just continue the formula. I think anyone and everyone would have been happy if they had just continued the formula of Metal Gear Solid 3, Metal Gear Solid 1, Metal Gear Solid 2, and they just continued that same formula and just brought it into with these new level of graphics and movement. The movement in this game is so fluid and so good. There's so many things that you can do. You have full control of your character. And if they had just took the elements that were already established from the older Metal Gear games and just brought them into this game would have been fantastic and definitely one of the best in the franchise. But instead, the story just became convoluted. This episodic nature was just odd. And because of that, this has turned into like one of my least and most disappointing Metal Gear Solid games, because it's odd. Like I'm telling you I'm extremely disappointed, but at the same time I'm saying that the movement and the gameplay is just that good. That's basically the only reason why you should play this game, is just to see the graphics and just to experience the gameplay. But in terms of a Metal Gear game, it really fell short. So I mean, essentially, that's pretty much it when it comes to the Metal Gear Solid franchise. Some of the other games that I have are just collections. This is like the Legacy Collection. I think it included a digital copy of Metal Gear Solid 1, and then it includes 2, 3. It included a copy of Metal Gear Solid 4, and a nice little art book with it. This is the HD collection for the Xbox 360, but these are just collections of the older games. I really hope that they do remaster or even do a remake of any of the Metal Gear Solid games for the PlayStation 5, take advantage of the technology. That would be something I'd be highly interested in, if there was a way that they could actually bring this game back, which I don't think they can because of licensing problems. But if they were able to make this game again, even that I'd be completely satisfied with. But ever since what happened with the director Hideo Kojima and Konami, I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen with this franchise, but this is really an excellent, solid franchise. If you have not checked it out, it's really something that I highly recommend. And if you're going to start with it, I would definitely recommend starting with Metal Gear Solid 3. Maybe not the Snake Eater, because nowadays we're so used to normal third-person action games. Maybe start with Subsistence, but you should definitely play Metal Gear Solid 3, and then you can kind of get into the rest of the franchise. So those are my thoughts on Metal Gear Solid and my history with Metal Gear Solid, one of my favorite games. Let me know your thoughts down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It always helps. So until next time.